All right, so I figured let's watch like a review of Spider-Man 2 because I can't play it because I don't have a PS5. If you have a PS5, if you have gameplay out there, I'll watch it. Um, maybe not react to it. I don't know if it's good. Yeah, maybe. But it's I was gonna watch this on IGN, but Gameranx is one of my favorite channels. Like IGN, I've been watching for years, years, and years since I was like really, I don't know, around the time they first came out. But Gameranx is really great. Jake Baldino, I love his commentary. I love his channel, his personal channel. If you haven't checked that out, link in the description. But Gameranx is awesome. So we're gonna check that out, and let's just kind of see what this is all about, shall we? Let's get into it.
And we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up
So
gameplay
dope.
and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino. I'm a little under the weather. I do apologize if I sound a little different, but you know I'm dragging my butt out of bed for Spider-Man.
Jeez.
Insomniac is back at it here with their third Spider-Man game. This is Spider-Man 2. Of course,
right.
we had the mainline 2018 Breakout Spider-Man and the spin-off game Miles Morales, both of which I really enjoyed. Just cards out on the table here. I want to show my extreme bias. I really, really enjoy Spider-Man, and I've played every damn Spider-Man game. The good ones, the weird ones, the
It's funny too because I just finished Miles Morales and it's really good. The story is actually pretty dope, but the swinging to me is better in Miles Morales than it is in Spider-Man. So yeah, that's my
ones.
take.
Insomniac's previous two games had it pretty much figured out, with some little complaints here and there. And I'd say once again, they've pretty much done it with a few minor complaints here and there. This is a different beast from the previous two games, though. It feels a little less emotional and more bombastic and crazy and comic booky.
That makes sense.
And it still has some great character moments and a couple of tearjerker bits here and there, but this feels like a love letter to some late 80s, early 90s Spidey comics with big, crazy action, over-the-top heroics, and threatening enemies. Like God of War 2018 to God of War Ragnarok, it's great.
No, I haven't played that yet.
More gameplay
Ragnarok.
and more cool stuff. But I think the initial shock value of the story and presentation of the first game still feels a bit stronger. But still, overall, this thing is absolutely incredible.
Makes sense.
So let's get
I get
into
it.
it. Just so you know, we've been playing a review copy provided by Sony, and this footage was captured on PlayStation 5, swapping between the graphical modes. And this footage is as spoiler-free as I could possibly make it.
dope.
But be warned, there are some cool surprises like right from the beginning of this game. And I think other video reviews are
Right
going to
from the
show off
beginning?
a lot more than me. I want you to be surprised with some of this because
Good.
it made me, as a fan, really happy to discover it myself. So that's
Here he goes with his girl. It's funny though because like I'm probably gonna watch the game fully before I play it, whenever that is, because I did that with the first game and I still played it and it was still amazing. So I know I'm gonna do it with this one too. So I'll get spoiled before I played it because I did that with the last game. I didn't do it with Miles Morales because I did want to go through that one fresh, but I did it with Spider-Man. So I don't care.
That's just a warning. Anyways, Spider-Man 2 takes place a few months after the events of Miles Morales. So the two Spider-Men are in
pretty
full
quick.
swing together. You know, they're doing their hero thing. They're fully formed, and they're in a good groove until Kraven, Harry Osborn, and Venom come to town. And that's really the back of the box or like the first trailer description stuff. No spoilers.
sense. No spoilers.
But I'll get into how effective all that story stuff is in a little bit. Now, gameplay-wise, the loop is pretty similar. You're in the city, progressing through the adventure.
The city's
and
bigger too,
those
right?
main story missions are broken up by the game asking you to go out into the world and do
That
open
is
world
so
stuff.
cool.
Love it or hate it.
Oh,
your
that was
character
dope.
will say after
Wait.
a mission, I should really check
Hold on.
or hate it. Your character will say
I didn't
after
go
a
back far enough.
game asking you to go
So you
out
could go
into the
right into
world and
combat
do
from that.
open world stuff. Love it or hate it. Your character
Oh my
will say
God.
after a mission, I should really check in on
That
a
was
crime
cool.
before I go do the next thing, And that's when you go out and do all the other stuff. There are hidden collectibles to find,
Look at that
enemy
suit.
bases to take down, a lot of the standard stuff you've already seen. If you love Spider-Man, it's good, solid Spider-Man busy work. Thankfully, a lot of it is a lot more streamlined and shaken up a bit to feel a little bit less repetitive.
That's
like
good.
Stopping car chases is less of a big thing you go and do, and then it's one of the same two car stopping animations and the minigame
that was cool,
over
taking
and
the wheels
over
out.
and over again. Now here, it's just something that usually pops up really close to you while you're swinging, and you just swing on over and do a quick heroic, and it can be
Let's be honest. A lot of this looks the same. just from the last two games. I wasn't expecting like a complete overhaul of the gameplay or anything like that. It was more maybe the graphics a little bit because it does look very similar to like the PS4 version. But I haven't played it on PS5, so I don't know if there's like a big difference. Is there? Let me know. But I'd be interested to kind of find out.
Over and done with in a few seconds. It's like these small quality of life changes that make a difference. I also found a lot of the collectibles more interesting this time around. There are quite a few, and a lot of them have like sub-story ramifications that are pretty fun actually, and pretty interesting to help them feel a little bit less like busy work and more like something you genuinely want to do and get something out of it, for this adventure. Now, aside from the usual busy stuff, there are good, compelling side missions this time around as well, like actual story stuff. And some might surprise you. They're often lighthearted and sweet and simple, but they're much stronger diversions than just like, clear another bad guy camp. Especially,
it's weird seeing him sit there in the symbiote suit, just kind of chilling.
Especially a few that have their own somewhat self-contained stories with some familiar faces and a couple of surprises. Now, enemy factions, like in previous games, are kind of what a lot of the side objectives and stuff to do kind of revolve around. Mm-hmm. The enemy factions aren't too various. There are like sort of two main ones and two side ones, one of which can be super stressful in a good way. That's all I'll say. I'll definitely say could have used one more solid full enemy faction to keep things interesting, but at the very least, the main enemy faction in the game does have a lot of different enemy varieties. Now, as for the main missions, I know it took a while to get to this, sorry. They're great. Good Spider-Man adventuring, slower moments with characters and puzzles, and some solid boss battles and big set-piece spectacle moments you'd expect. Some boss battles had a surprising amount of challenge to them. I found myself getting brutalized a few times, more than I expected, as these games are typically fairly easy-breezy. But there is some absolutely awesome shit that goes down on screen. Not to sound like too much of a hype man.
Sandman.
There were some moments with stuff happening on screen where my mouth was just open.
I feel almost like that's a spoiler, but I saw something about this like earlier today from Doomblazer in a YouTube post that he put out. And I was like, oh shoot, Sandman. I don't remember seeing anything about that. I didn't watch the most recent like official trailer or launch trailer. So maybe he showed up in there. So if this is a spoiler for you, sorry. Didn't know he was going to show it here because I thought that was spoiler territory, but it's kind of dope that he's in the game.
In disbelief, especially some of the Venom stuff. That's all like, holy shit, you're not ready. And gameplay-wise, combat still feels similar, but the biggest additions are the power abilities from Miles Morales on one trigger hold with face buttons mapped, and the other side for on-the-fly use of Spidey gadgets. You're able to use powers to great effect, whether you're Peter or Miles. Zipping enemies up in the air, stun locking them, an AoE attack, stuff like that. And Peter's are dependent on his spider arm tech or symbiote powers. Yeah. And with the symbiote, there's also a kind of rage meter you can temporarily activate. For Miles, he gets like a big cinematic electric blast.
Way more melee focused for Spider-Man.
For Miles,
for Peter Parker, Spider-Man at least.
With the symbiote, there's also a kind of rage meter you can temporarily activate. For Miles, he gets like a big cinematic electric blast wave that clears the map. The other big thing is the parry. Enemies will flash a certain color for these big attacks. These attacks can be deflected right back at enemies, and it works well enough. I don't know how much a Spider-Man game needed a parry, but it changes up the feel a bit here and there, especially with certain enemy types. And in higher difficulty levels, like the unlockable difficulty called Ultimate, it becomes much more necessary. Now, speaking of unlockables, the skill trees are solid this time around. Where other things are streamlined, the process of unlocking and upgrading is a bit more in-depth. Peter and Miles get their own separate skill trees to work through.
Makes sense.
Both with their own branches into different avenues for their respective abilities. So I do wish the characters felt a little bit more separate and distinct, other than Peter having the symbiote.
Oh, so there's a combo one, and there's one for each of them.
Comboing dudes in the air and doing the little triangle circle finishers like you always have. But it holds up. The added suit abilities do help keep things fresh. There's also a suit tech tree for the characters that you can dump open world exploration stuff into health upgrades, damage upgrades, stuff like that. Also, while Peter and Miles have their own trees I mentioned earlier, they each have a collective shared tree too.
Right.
The main thing you get out of this tree are some new traversal abilities and upgrades. Web swinging, my personal favorite way of getting around in a video game ever. It's not massively upgraded from the last game, but it does have some fun little additions for the dedicated web swingers. First of all, the animations this time around are absolutely incredible. The characters just look like they're having so much more fun, and they're so much more lively and expressive as they swing around. Also, you can get your momentum up and move through the city faster than in the previous games. This game wants you getting around the city quick. It loads it all in really fast, and they're clearly very proud of that. Now, one of my favorite ways to get yourself moving through the city quick is the big loop that you can do. Now, if you do it right, you can fling yourself really far. It feels a little awkward sometimes with how the camera pans out, and I don't know if it makes sense physics-wise, but I don't care. It's cool. You can also do a slingshot yank and release wherever you are to really get going fast. And you can also do like a hard right turn or left turn swing where the character will yank themselves 90 degrees to like turn a corner. You can actually hold that button longer, and if you can get near, say, like a flagpole, you can just swing around it horizontally. Now, it's a little awkward because the character can just do it forever, but again, it's cool when you use it for certain situations.
It should be tying up,
these are just good
getting shorter and shorter.
Around. Again, they didn't overhaul the web swing, but there's just a bit more to it. And then there's also the wingsuit, the web wings, to get you around even faster. Fast travel is available to be unlocked by spending time in each district, and it's really fast and impressive visually, but the web wings are kind of like the in-game fast travel.
Why wouldn't you use that?
In short bursts, just to bust them out and glide quickly where your webs can't attach.
Around you.
Like if you're too high, it's nice in a pinch. But you can also glide into these wind tunnels in the city that shoot you through town at a higher rate of speed. And it kind of just feels like you're Superman, not really Spider-Man. It's a nice way to streamline, again, traveling around the city, getting through things quick, especially getting across bodies of water really quick. But I still preferred to just swing the
That was actually really dope. I gotta check that out.
Higher rate of bust them out and glide quickly where your webs can't attach. Like if you're too high, it's nice in a pinch. But you can also glide into these wind tunnels in the city that shoot you through town at a higher rate of speed. And it kind of just feels like you're Superman, not really Spider-Man. It's a nice way to streamline, traveling around the city,
at it looks
getting
odd.
through things quick, especially getting across bodies of water really quick. But I still preferred to just swing the old-fashioned way.
it's very cool, but
I'm
it looks
an
like
annoying
Superman.
little web-swinging fanboy. That's just me, though. But the city itself, it's bigger, but it's still manageable. Even the parts that aren't new feel significantly different. I don't know, more traffic, more detail, seems like more unique looking buildings, and more time of day settings and weather effects, and just a brighter overall color palette make a hell of a difference. The new area additions are some of Brooklyn
look is just
and
amazing,
Queens,
though.
and they feel distinct. As someone from the greater New York area, I'd argue that they're less accurate than Insomniac's Manhattan, but it gets some of the feel right, just in like a small, kind of quaint and charming way. Like Queens in real life is a monster, but it's hard to encapsulate that in a really small little game world. Still, I'm just glad it's there, and it's nice that there are tons of bridges to swing around and really just more to explore.
What are
the
those
city
bubbles?
Just feels so much bigger, like when you're perched on a building overlooking an entire highway, like the BQE, just like filled with cars and traffic. And again,
so
with bridges with the.
So you're seeing these like, I don't know if you can see my mouse there. Yeah, you can see that. These like wind. Those are where you're seeing those little wind tunnels. There was another one that showed up before they jumped.
Like when you're perched on a building.
Yeah, here, down here. So I guess that's how you know. That's like the visual
overlooking an entire highway
representation
like
of that, so you know where to go for those.
Filled with cars and traffic. And again,
it's
with
kind
the
of cool.
Bridges, with the river, it feels way more like a fully fleshed out New York.
I don't know if that one up there is one, but still.
It all performs great. Loading, fast traveling, everything is super fast and detailed. It has a performance
so you
and
see it right
fidelity
there.
mode as well as a 40
like he's about to go in one, like right there.
mode if you have a 120 hertz
I guess
TV,
not, you missed it.
which is nice. And none of the modes really show significant compromises to my naked eye other than frame rate. I had 2 crashes in like over 30 hours of
Sandman
playing.
goons.
That was really my only complaint.
Making
now,
himself.
the only other thing I think might be a negative for some people are the Mary Jane sections. They were criticized in the last game for kind of killing the pacing, but I didn't mind them personally. Now, in Spider-Man 2, they bring back Mary Jane sections, and this time they feel far less creative. While some people would argue in the previous game they would kill the pace, I still found like what I was doing in the story as Mary Jane was interesting. Here, it's her just thrown into a few generic sections. One moment is a standout, but the rest of the sequences had me just going, oh man, this again, come on. It's not a huge part of the game, but it was a negative that I could find. And that being said, I personally really liked what they did with Mary Jane's story and character arc. There's some good stuff there. And that really goes for everyone, really. There's one element from the previous games I wish was followed up on a bit more, but otherwise, I thought they did a really good job weaving Miles into a Spider-Man story involving these classic villains and shaking things up quite a bit, while also keeping the relationship between Miles and Peter interesting,
that's good.
Especially in some pretty nuanced ways. So really what I'm trying to get across is that while the original Spider-Man 2018
a tiger,
left me emotional by the end of the game, the end of Spider-Man 2 just had me going, hell yeah, dude. The action in this thing is crazy. The spectacle is nuts. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm overly gushing or anything, but I just really like Spider-Man. And if you're coming to this and you already know how I approach these things and you know I'm a Spider-Man fan, I can at least tell you that I am very happy from that standpoint. But of course, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinions.
That's a mess.
And now we want to hear yours down in the comments.
I gotta say, I always like his take on games. Like, no matter what game it is. I've even watched videos of Jake's, well, at least Gameranx, as far as like games I would never play. But I like to get their 2 cents on like the gameplay and what it's all about, and if people are gonna like it, whatever the case. Even if it's a game I know I'm not gonna like or ever play it, I'll still watch their channel and see what it's all about because I just love the commentary. He does a great job. So thank you, Jake. Really good job. Appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts on this. Again, it looks really cool. I'm not gonna get to play it, so I'll watch somebody play the game. There's a couple channels I watch for stuff like that. And I'll check it out. Whenever I do play the game, I'll play it. That's after I get a PS5. But the game looks great. A lot of different add-ons. It doesn't feel like it's too much, though. Feels like they did a good job of just taking the base foundation of what they built, adding a few extra things in there. You're already adding in another hero in Miles Morales, and you got multiple bad guys in there, of course. But it seems like they did a good job of like balancing it pretty well to me. That's how it looks so far. So we'll see with the story. Should I do a reaction to the gameplay, at least like the story of it? Let me know. Still got to do it for Mortal Kombat. I'm getting that started. But Mortal Kombat 1. But yeah, I'd like to do something like that for this. I think that would be pretty cool. We'll see. So it just has to make sense. And I don't want it to be too long. It'll be in parts, obviously. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments. Talk to me. Let's talk. Check out the other videos I got for you guys here as always. And if you want to see more, check those out. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.